Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July the 22nd, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Let's see. This was a good Monday. We got that lasagna. Happy Garfield to ya. I don't know. No, overall the day was good. It wasn't slow, but it was just like a slow steady, if that makes sense, right? Like I really didn't wind up leaving my little spot all day, just kind of mashed boxes all day. That was fine. It was dandy. Overall things were solid, which I like to start my week off like that. Let's see here. Food corner last night was pretty good, at least good to me. I had chicken poppers and fish sticks, and then a side of fries. I put a bunch of like hot sauce and sriracha and mustard on pretty much all of it. It was really good. I don't know. I like little meals like that. I always feel a little childish eating fish sticks, but at the end of the day, I'm fine with it. I know there's people out there who eat Dino Nuggets and have no shame, so why should I feel weird about eating a fish stick or two? You know what I mean? Overall, it was a good meal. It was solid, no complaints. And, I will say, though, I slept so much yesterday. I feel like I haven't slept like that in a very long time. And it was like one of those sleeps where, like, I got off, I did my little walk, came home, I took a nap, woke up. Okay, whoa, crazy news went down. We're gonna get into that. Then I was like, all right, I'm gonna hang out, cook. I ate, and then I pretty much went like right back to sleep. And then I woke up again in the middle of the night, like I'm wont to do. And I want to say maybe around like 2 or 3 fell back asleep. So overall, I'm not mad at that. The thing I am mad about though is I woke up super sleepy. So I was like, gosh, I can't win. So after my what was it, around my 10:30, 10:15 coffee, I was like, all right, I think I'm perking up. So I was good by then, but I was dragging, and I was like, man, all I did was sleep. Why am I sleepy? I hate that. But yeah, overall, like I said, good day. Been a solid 24 hours. But yeah, let's get into this big news I was just talking about. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Oh yeah. Mm. Ooh, brother. I hit the spot. Okay. From ABC News. Election 2024 updates. Harris campaign says it raised $81 million in 24 hours. Now, I'm sure you're noticing that headline and going, and I'm sure if you're just a regular newsie, you already know what's up. This shit happened, like I said, yesterday night, or yesterday afternoon, evening. I woke up and I was just like, wait, Biden's out? Biden's gone? And yeah, sure enough, he had issued this letter that he posted on social media, and he's still out with COVID or whatever, but essentially he's out. We out. And he gave his support to Kamala Harris, which is very big because in giving not just his like verbal support, his his energy, his vibe, he is more or less giving up his delegates, which he's the guy with pretty much all of them at this point. But I guess more or less Harris is saying, hey, I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to get the nomination, yada, yada, yada. I know there's talk of it being a potentially like an open kind of race, and then we figure it out that way. But it's looking like a lot of people are rallying behind Kamala Harris, and it's looking like she's going to be now the head of the ticket for the Democratic Party. So, yeah, it's a big shakeup, during the weekend. I guess we'll just read a little bit of this here. After President Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race on Sunday, Vice President Kamala Harris has emerged as the party favorite to replace him at the top of the ticket. Biden endorsed Harris on Sunday, and since then, many others in the Democratic Party are backing her. I would say 2 big names that we haven't heard yet that haven't backed her, that were like backing in terms of like Biden, getting out, stepping down. Obama, and then also Hakeem Jeffries. both of which have not. But Nancy Pelosi, who initially didn't really name anybody and was saying that whole shit about having an open competition, I think she's the first one who's kind of read the room and said, oh, any of the competition, like the Gretchen Whitmer or the Gavin Newsom, like, they're not stepping up. In fact, they're saying, no, I'm backing Kamala. If she's the pick, I'm backing her. So it doesn't look like anyone's stepping up to the plate. So I don't see much of an open race there. I think really it's a question of who is her VP going to be. And kind of like Trump, it seems like people are kind of speculating like she should pick some middle of the state kind of guy. Like, you know, essentially Trump picked Vance because he thinks by, like, obviously the Ohio vote's kind of a lock, unfortunately, as Ohio, and I know this. We're not much of a swing state these days, but Vance appeals, or at least he's supposed to appeal, to this, like, middle American rural kind of vibe, even though he's, like, a Yale graduate who writes shitty books. Essentially, he's supposed to appeal to this, like, Pennsylvania vote that Trump is trying to win. And essentially for Harris, they're thinking the same kind of thing. I've heard Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, being floated around. But so far, I've only heard just him saying, like, oh, I support Kamala. I'm rooting for her. So we'll see. Shit, man, it's crazy. I even saw an article about what if they could we pick Obama? Could Barack Obama be a vice president? Some people were saying no, they don't think that he can. I don't know. I'm curious on the legalities of that because he's done, 2 terms, and you might not be able to run a third, either or. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I mean, this definitely opens shit up in terms of like what the Republican response has kind of been. They're acting like they're not thrown off by this at all. They're like, hey, we've actually been prepping for weeks on the like hypothetical that Kamala runs. But then they're also doing the thing of like, actually, like, you know, Joe Biden, since he's like already saying he can't run, he should just quit. He should just stop being president immediately. And then they're also trying to like downshift all of like Biden's like policies and any of his inadequacies and blah blah blah. They're trying to shift that to her. So like this shit is already moving and changing now. So I'm very interested and how things are going to go, especially the debate. Definitely people at work were all a buzz about it, at least like the people I usually talk about politics with. They wanted to get my 2 cents and I wanted to hear theirs, of course. So yeah, it's been an interesting day. It's been an interesting, 48 hours. And mind you, yeah, I mean, literally she's, the campaign has raised about $81 million. It's also, once again, worth noting that she more or less is going to get Biden's war chest. Like all the campaign money, that's just going to go to her because her name has been on the ticket with him. So they can still share that. I feel like that was an interesting, important thing to say and add. So yeah, we will see how things go. You know, I'll keep you posted. And I guess, I don't know, what are my thoughts on Harris? I mean, you've heard them, you know, a little bit here and there. She's still obviously RoboCop. Essentially now the race has now become, instead of the old guys versus each other in the nursing home, it is now, you know, top prosecutor versus top felon. You know what I mean? Great. Awesome. And of course people are bringing up like, yeah, like she has a terrible record of just locking up black people and not giving a fucking shit. Yes, I'm very well aware. I said, are you going to vote for someone like that? Yeah, I fucking am, dude. Yeah, I know it sucks, dude, but I'm going to keep voting blue, dude. I don't, once again, until motherfuckers can come up with another option, I keep saying this shit, then get the fuck out of my face with that. You know, you can call me whatever the fuck you want. I don't care, dog. Because once again, you're just mad and being mad. I see so much of that shit online. But yeah, once again, no one with any kind of solutions outside of this. And then they go, well, don't be wrong. I know Trump's bad, but like Kamala Harris is also bad. Yeah, dude, this is a story of politicians in office. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, you know, look forward to that. Look for more conversations like that. Oh, there was 2 more things I wanted to say. 1, 106 more days to election day. And then 2, I didn't mention this with Trump all last week, but I know that we were kind of saying, like, we've talked about like how his finances are doing. I think they raised so much money, like millions of dollars since the assassination attempt, throughout the RNC thing, plus with his like stock stuff and all that. Like Trump has made a lot of money over the past week. So definitely interesting to see like the coffers tell the story there. And in terms of who I think will win, I don't know. I still think it's probably going to be Trump, unfortunately. I hate to say that. There have been some polls that say, hey, maybe Harris inks it out by a little bit, but, she's going to have a lot to overcome, that's for sure. But, man, I am rooting for her. I'll say that shit. Fuck it. What can I say? Let's go ahead and move on to the next beat. From the Associated Press. Largest housing provider for migrant children engaged in pervasive sexual abuse, U.S. says. So trigger warning, a lot of, sadly, sexual stuff here involving children. It's really fucking unfortunate. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Employees of the largest housing provider for unaccompanied migrant children in the U.S. repeatedly sexually abused and harassed children in their care for at least 8 years, the Justice Department said Thursday, alleging a shocking litany of offenses that took place as the company amassed billions of dollars in government contracts. Southwest Key Programs Incorporated employees, including supervisors, raped, touched, or solicited sex and nude images of children beginning in 2015 and possibly earlier, the Justice Department said in a lawsuit filed this week. At least 2 employees have been indicted on criminal charges related to the allegations since 2020. It was not immediately clear how many children are currently in Southwest Key's vast network of shelters across 3 states, which have room for more than 6,300 children. A Justice Department spokesperson declined to comment beyond the lawsuit announcement when asked whether the department recommended that children be removed from the shelters or that the nonprofit contracts be terminated. Skim ahead here. The nonprofit organization is the largest provider of housing for unaccompanied migrant children operating under grants from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It has 29 child migrant shelters, 17 in Texas, 10 in Arizona, and 2 in California. The company's largest shelter is in Brownsville, Texas, which is at a converted Walmart with a capacity of 1,200. Now, this has been in terms of a provider, it's been for both administrations, not just Trump's. But let's see, the government awarded the provider with more than $3 billion in contracts between 2015 and 2023. So that's like, hey, this entire time that this shit's been going, they've been getting pumped up with just government taxpayer money, The Border Patrol must transfer custody of unaccompanied children within 72 hours of arrest to Health and Human Services, which releases most to parents or close relatives after short stays at Southwest Key or shelters operated by other contracted providers. Let's see. The lawsuit filed Wednesday in Austin, where Southwest Key is based, provides extensive details saying authorities received more than 100 reports of sexual abuse or harassment at the provider shelter since 2015. Among the lawsuit's allegations, an employee repeatedly sexually abused 3 girls ages 5, 8, and 11 at the Casa Franklin shelter in El Paso, Texas. The 8-year-old told investigators that the worker repeatedly entered their bedrooms in the middle of the night to touch their private area, and he then threatened to kill their families if they disclosed the abuse. The lawsuit also alleges that an employee of the provider shelter in Mesa, Arizona, took a 15-year-old boy to a hotel and paid him to perform sexual acts for several days in 2020. There's more stories like this that they mention. Obviously, it's very sad. It's very unfortunate. There's this weird clause that winds up happening, too, with like places like Texas and Florida. Texas, like Florida, revoked the licenses of facilities that housed migrant children in 2021 in response to an extraordinary influx of people across its border from Mexico, creating in what some critics said was an oversight void. So I guess because they say, oh, well, we're revoking your license. Now I guess they now don't have to check in on these facilities, and it only falls within the federal scope to do so. I'm not sure here. But it seems weird that they can just literally wash their hands of it and say, hey, we're blaming this on the border crisis, whatever, and then just letting it happen, letting it run rampant. I mean, just shit like this breaks my fucking heart, because this isn't something that you're going to hear covered in debates and things like that. Most likely you're going to hear, oh, the migration crisis and how people are just coming into the America and they're invading us, blah 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 blah. And you're going to hear versions of that from not just the conservatives but also the Democrats. But meanwhile, I don't feel like what we have is an immigration crisis. I feel like we have a fucking humanity goddamn crisis, man. I do not understand how you can just do shit like this and it just goes unchecked for years. For years. Just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But meanwhile, we're going to talk about all the anecdotal shit that happens, and it's like, oh, they're coming into our country and they're killing and raping our women and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we are doing this to their children. What are you talking about? Like, instead of finding them a place to be and putting them in a situation where they can actually thrive and live here and actually enrich our own country, we take from them. It's crazy. It's so fucking fucked up, dude. So yeah, I mean, I was sitting on this story, it feels like, for about a week now, and I was just trying to figure out where I could get it in, and I'm like, let's just do this now. Let's just get through it. I definitely feel like it's important to talk about, because outside of seeing this on my feed like one time, I just haven't seen much coverage on it. So I was like, hey, let's just go ahead and do a little spot here. Obviously very unfortunate, and you know, my heart goes out to the families and the children involved in this fucking shit. You know, there's probably so many people, like there's a few people I'm sure who have stepped up and said this happened to me, but I'm sure there's so many people who are just like, no, like I believe this person, like, you know, they could easily get rid of me, my family, like, and they just go in silence, you know. So yeah, that's obviously very fucking sad. Let's move on. We're gonna switch it up a little bit here. This is from the Washington Post, but technically I got it from, what is this, Microsoft Start, some MSN thing. You know, fuck the WAPO at the end of the day. They paywall everything. A court in Russia convicted Russian-American journalist Alsu Krimasheva of reporting false information about the country's military and sentenced her to 6.5 years in prison on Friday. The same day, Wall Street Journal correspondent Evan Gershkovich was sentenced to 16 years on espionage charges, marking a new level of persecution of the foreign press by the Kremlin. Krimasheva, 47, an editor with the U.S. government-financed Radio Free Europe, Free Europe Radio Liberty, was convicted in a closed trial on Friday in Kazan, nearly 500 miles east of Moscow, the same day as Gershovich's conviction in Yekaterinburg, a city in the Urals. News of Krimashava's conviction, however, emerged only on Monday. Krimasheva was convicted under Russia's wartime fake news law, which bans the broadcasting or posting of any information about the war in Ukraine other than official propaganda. The law, adopted after Russia's February 2022 invasion, effectively bars reporting on Russian atrocities in Ukraine, military setbacks, heavy military casualties, or criticisms of the war. Now, I believe that she was there to visit her mother, who I think was like sick or something of the sort, and in the process, she just gets arrested and then charged for this shit, which is very unfortunate. Krimasheva, who holds American and Russian passports, is a Prague-based editor with Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. She was detained in June 2023 after a trip home to Russia to visit her ailing mother. Both her passports were confiscated. So yeah, I mean, there's no talk in terms of like, is she gonna be involved in a prisoner swap? I mean, I've heard her name mentioned. I've mentioned it on the podcast. I know we've talked about Paul Whelan. You know, are they all going to get traded for this one, you know, German guy? I don't know. I kind of don't think so. But I mean, we'll see. I do have the name here, actually, have it ready. Putin hinted in February that he would be willing to swap Gershovich for Vadim Krasikov, a Russian convicted of murder in Germany for assassinating former Chechen rebel commander Zemilikan Kazalosvili in Berlin's main park. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how this goes. I really would like to see and hope all three of them get out. You know what I mean? But time's gonna tell there. I do feel like there is something in terms of the speed of this, how it's like not one, but both of them were more or less convicted or sentenced in the same weekend. Maybe there is something to that. But yeah, hopefully it's good news ahead. We don't know. We'll see. All right. I have one more thing I wanted to cover, and then I'll go ahead and let you go for the day. You can get to your lasagna if there's any left. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll get into it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yummy, yummy. All right. All right. From NBC News. Karen Reed set to stand trial again in January in boyfriend's death. So we have a date set for the retrial of Karen Reed. A new trial date has been set for January for Karen Reed after a mistrial was declared earlier this summer for the Massachusetts woman accused in 2022 of the death of John O'Keefe, her police officer boyfriend. Reed appeared in court Monday, and a new jury trial was scheduled for January 27th. It was Reed's first appearance since a judge declared a mistrial earlier this month after jurors said they could not reach a verdict in the murder trial. Let's see here. But there is something that they wanted to add. Her lawyers have asked the judge to dismiss 2 of the charges, second-degree murder and leaving the scene of a deadly accident, saying in court filings that jurors unanimously agreed to acquit Reed on those charges. Prosecutors have opposed the defense's request, describing it as legally inappropriate and premised on conjecture and hearsay. The judge has not yet weighed in. So I think they're going to have like a hearing about that on like the 9th, and then a trial conference on January 14th. I'm very curious about this because essentially I guess what happened, because I heard this described to me, I think it was on Start Here, ABC Start Here or whatever. It might have been on BBC, who knows. But essentially they had taken a breakdown from the jurors and they said, actually, on these 2 things, we weren't deadlocked. We were on the same page that we don't think, like, we feel like she's not guilty on this. But on like everything else, we were deadlocked. And the judge, like after, pressing them to get to a verdict, he didn't get into the detail, or they didn't get into the details about that. And like they could have, and they didn't. So I guess that's why we're going to actually get into the meat of this and see if maybe they do get thrown out. Because there might be some actual weight to that, which would be a big difference going into the retrial. Like, it's just not nearly as heavy of a case without those 2 parts of it in there. So we'll see. I'll definitely hope to keep you posted. And, mea culpa to anyone who didn't like my coverage on the Reed case before. I'm not going to stop. But I do, once again, appreciate the people who added to it. Because, obviously, I only get snapshots of this via the articles I read or whatever I hear. I try to get any extra I can, but I'm a busy guy. What can I say? I got a whole ass job to do. So I really do appreciate any insights that are added to not just this, but any story I wind up covering. At the end of the day, it does take a village to really tell a story of what's the news, what's happening. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone who kind of puts their hands in. Even if people, come in a little hostile and hot. But yeah, that's it. I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, become a newsie today. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. 3 ways to hit me up: IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials that you're on. Hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. Really helps out a lot. Leave a like, leave a comment. Ooh, excuse me. Raw burps. But sharing is caring. It can be fun. Try it out. Maybe one time for the one time. But yeah, hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.